Greetings, YouTube. I'm Evening, and I'm here to talk about games you probably never heard about. Today, I want to ask and answer one simple question. Should you play Bulk Slash? Let's begin with what even is Bulk Slash? Bulk Slash was released in 1997 for the Sega Saturn and, most importantly, exclusively in Japan. Developed by CA Productions, whose other notable games are probably only Sky Odyssey on PlayStation 2 and Hagane, The Final Conflict on the SNES. It was, however, published by a big name, Hudson Soft, who I'd wager are probably most known for developing many of the Mario Party and Bomberman games. The game was met with quite positive reactions, and even to this day, quite often it's found at the top of best Saturn games lists. You are Chris Dooley, a pilot of a mech in some sort of space opera-esque situation. At least that's what I gathered from the opening cutscene, as the game doesn't really tell you too much on its own. All you really need to know is that there are 3 levels you can do now, and 4 more await afterwards. Go in, kill some rebels, and have fun. The game is beautiful, stylish, and it sounds fantastic. The presentation is top-notch. My only complaint would be that the HUD gets a little bit too busy. It could have been a little less, but that's just a nitpick. Everything about the game's presentation is just wonderful. Enemies, specifically the ones that are more unique, look so memorable. One of my favorite parts is the sense of scale. Your mech is big, and it feels big. Whenever you run around the empty streets of cities and your head reaches like the 3rd floor, it makes you feel like you are really piloting a giant mech. And the colors. Oh, let me gush about how colorful the game is. Every level, more or less, has its own feel to it. They are very different in both skyboxes, the main colors they use, and the architecture of the buildings, if there are even any present. The visuals knock it out of the park. It also features some head-bobbing music, perfect tunes to blow some stuff up to. Here's the thing, the Sega Saturn controller didn't have any thumbsticks, but if you have noticed, I am turning my camera pretty often. So how does that work? Now this is the part of the game which might be the hardest thing for modern audiences, as the control scheme does take some getting used to. I know it took me a good level or 2, but once you get it, you really get it, and it feels so intuitive. Yeah, you move the camera with the triggers. If you have never controlled a camera like that, it might sound a little bit clunky, but don't worry. Not only do you get used to it pretty fast, the level design itself feels very appropriate for the amount of mobility you have. As such, being stuck to trigger turning never felt bad. Your mech here can also do other things, mainly attack. There are 3 ways you can attack. If you get close enough to an enemy and press attack, you instantly pull out a sword and slash in front of you, in turn dealing some hefty damage. Now, if you are not in close quarters, pressing the attack makes you shoot. If you hold down the shoot button, you can use your D-pad for more precise aiming, if that is something you need. The last, and the most useful mode of attacking, involves waiting. Once this energy bar fills up, you don't shoot normal bullets anymore, but rather, you lob a big explosive towards the enemy, which not only does massive damage, but it also has quite a big AoE. An added bonus is that if you detonate your explosive near some explosive barrels, this sets up a chain reaction, which is a very useful way to clear huge gatherings of enemies. You also have a jump button, which is good for getting around and avoiding enemy attacks. The other very important part of your arsenal is your plane button. That's right, I lied to you, you aren't controlling a mech. This is actually a transformer. With a press of a button, you turn into a jet. And boy oh boy is it so strong. The jump button now acts as your speed button. Pressing it cycles through different speed modes in 25% increments. If you hold the jump button, however, your speed increases by 1, which is great if for some reason you really want to travel at 62% speed or something. Personally, never really used this function. The 4 speed modes provided work perfectly for me. Now let's talk about attacking in plane mode. Of course, you do not have the ability to melee anyone anymore, but what you get in turn is some homing rockets that take the place of the explosive grenade, meaning they follow the same rules of needing for the energy bar to charge. But it's so worth it. While sure, the regular jet attack is pretty good, the homing missiles are not only devastating, but they also remove the need to aim, which is the biggest challenge when you're flying around at Mach 10 speed. It doesn't take long to understand just how strong the jet is, which is even more evident by the fact that every boss fight pretty much requires you to use the jet. Oh right, did I not mention this? Every level has a boss. First, let me explain the level structure itself. Every level drops you into a map and tasks you with a mission. They range from destroy some targets, to protect a ship, or even, my favorite, carry these bombs to these specific locations, please. Very fun and creative ways of using the mechanics of the game to the max. Once you complete your objective, however, the mission doesn't end. You could say that's when the real stuff begins. Every level ends with you having to beat some sort of monstrous robotic construct, be it a giant flying snake thing, or just a robot spider. These fights start off being very simple, just lock on with the jet and hit the enemy 6 times. But as the game progresses, the mechanics of the bosses also evolve. Stuff like being able to hit only specific parts, or needing to use the environment to beat them. Speaking of the environment, it does seem like it's a little bit busy. There are so many buildings, streets, places. It just seems so easy to get lost in. But fear not, Bulk Slash thought of that. To help you in your fight, you are aided by Miss. What is Miss? Well, it's a lady navigator that shouts directions at you and reacts to getting hit. They are a gem. They add so much character to the game, which already was gushing with style. There are 6 navigators in total, and a 7th secret one you get for being a little completionist. They range from thieves and pop stars to military personnel specifically trained to be Miss. Other than spouting directions at you, during a boss battle, they also, with a press of a button, point you towards the direction of the big bad enemy, which is very helpful, especially in some levels that are a little bit too big. Here's a little something I must mention when it comes to misses. In 2006, in the GameFAQs guide section, an English guide for Bulk Slash appeared. To this day, it's the only guide on the site. There's an interesting thing mentioned in the guide that apparently, every navigator has her own special skills. You might be wondering, oh, what are they? Well, I'm wondering as well, because the author of the guide said, and I quote, "Each of the 7 navigators have their own secret bonus abilities that strengthen your own. I'll let you figure out these yourself, since experimenting with the navigators is what makes the game fun." Smiley face. Not only is this a guide that doesn't tell you information about the game, but it's also just straight up lying. Because I never noticed any abilities. Other people online never have noticed the navigators having any abilities. This is just straight up gaslighting. I don't know what sort of things this person knows, what secrets he holds, but it's knowledge I am not privy to. Other than the ladies that need help or want to help, on the ground you can also find badges and gold bars, the typical score multiplying items. In addition to that, you get shield recharge items that come in 3 flavors, level 1, level 2, and max recharge. Last but not least, we have the weapons. You see, your regular pea shooter ain't the only weapon in your arsenal. You can also find a floating power-up that cycles through 3 weapon types, letting you choose which one you want. You have the flamethrower, which, as the name implies, turns your weapon into a short-range fire spewer. Next we got napalm, makes you fire a 3-way shot. And lastly, we have the Bezier Blaster. It fires a laser that also targets enemies and does it in a weird, freaky type of arc. This one's my favorite. So, who do we fire all this weaponry upon? The enemies are very design-wise, but once you boil it down, they do neatly arrange themselves in a couple of groups. We got the turrets of many types, the typical one-shot fodder enemies that are there just to inflate your points, the bigger boys that require some more firepower, and the planes. Out of this bunch, the planes are the most interesting part. Some levels feature planes that just fly by and drop bombs on you. You can of course hop into the jet and kill them, but be careful, as the skies are littered with planes that will just ram you without any self-preservation. Be careful. In the last level, there are also just giant unkillable cylinders that appear. Truly, might be the strongest enemy in the whole game. I fear that rolling unstoppable force. Let's talk about the story. The title cutscene gives us a little anime opening which promises a lot of story, but that is kind of all the story you get until the end. That is unless you open the trusty manual and find the 2 pages of story lore. Bulk Slash takes place in a world ravaged by the Great War. The war finally reached an end when the fascist planet of Bao fell. Even though peace was upon the galaxy, the people of Blau were not able to rest. They were slandered, discriminated against, and even violence befell them. All this hardship was also felt by a little girl named Reason Lavia, someone who migrated to planet Grun after her father, a high-ranking official in Blau, was executed. Her only solace was a boy named Chris Dooley, the character we play. She hoped their friendship would last forever, but peace was only momentary. 25 years after the Great War, a former Blau military chief took over the planet, and the 3.2 billion people living on it became hostages. You might be asking, how did he do it? You see, he used his weapon that is capable of destroying planets. One of the people who joined in the school was Reason, hoping to avenge her father's execution. In order to stop the coup and deactivate the planet-destroying weapon, a coalition was established. In the center of it was the pilot Chris. The mission is simple. Deactivate the weapon by defeating the 7 Guardians who hold the password. They are all scattered across the solar system, and this operation was dubbed Bulk Slash. Will Chris be able to stop the coup? Will he deactivate the weapon, and what will happen when he meets his childhood friend once again? Oh, so much tension, and this is only the intro. Other than all this lore drop inside the manual, the game also has some lore of its own. Every mission has a little introduction that gives you context on the world you are in. Stuff like the existence of monarchy or pop stars. The big thing with the story is really the ending, or should I say, endings. Like I mentioned before, there are 7 ladies you can take aboard your mech to act as your navigators, as your mess. And this is where the reason for replaying the game comes in. Depending on which lady you level up the most, you get a different romantic ending in a very dating sim-esque way. Not going to spoil anything, but I think the different endings were worth it. Quite a nice and fun little reward. And also, the ladies do like to share some frisky pics with you, so look out for that. So yes, the game does kinda suggest you play it for 7 times, which isn't as bad as it sounds, as one go will take you around an hour or less, and as you get better, you'll get faster, and at least personally, the game was fun enough that it never really got boring, especially since every playthrough felt a little bit different because you had a different navigator on board. So there's one big glaring problem with Bulk Slash that I am yet to mention. As I stated before, it is one of those Sega Saturn games that never left the sunny shores of Japan. As such, there is no English version, but fear not, as the talented and amazing fans have come through and once again translated the whole game, as you have hopefully seen before your eyes. It is amazing. After playing the whole game multiple times, not once did I feel like any of the text was lacking. The translation was perfect, but that's not all. I don't know how to even begin explaining how confused I was when the first miss entered my cockpit. You see, the one thing I knew about the game was that it was a Japan exclusive that got a translation in 2021. That was the end of my information about Bulk Slash. Now please understand my shock when the navigator suddenly starts speaking English to me in that crispy, late 90s audio and voice acting. I was shook.
Leone Road, Sergeant First Class reporting.
Every navigator is dubbed, and the dub is just phenomenal. They have so much personality, and their work has perfectly captured the late 90s anime feel that all the dubs back in the day had. It's truly breathtaking work, and I truly believe this is a game worth checking out for the translation alone. The translation team are miracle workers, and they created a masterpiece. So, to answer the question, should you play Bulk Slash? Yes, yes, and once again yes. This might be my strongest recommendation yet. This is a marvelous game which you should really play, as not only is it a ton of fun, it is also a game that sadly did not get the recognition it deserved worldwide, since you know, only Japan had it. Most importantly, it's a game that takes 1 hour to beat. It's a great experience in a bite-sized dish. Thanks for watching, greatly appreciate it. Check out my other Should You Play videos, or check out my other channel, Evening Man, for longer, more in-depth videos on games you probably never heard about. If you like what you see, drop a like and subscribe. See you next time. I've been Evening, and this has been Bulk Slash.